Welcome everybody. My name is Jeanine and I'm happy to present our study named Outplay Your Weaker Self, a mixed method study on gamification to overcome procrastination in academia. Procrastination poses a serious challenge in academia. Procrastination, which you may know, is defined as the act of repeatedly postponing a task to a future date until one experiences distress about not having completed the task earlier. And the situation is quite severe. We know that 80 to 95% of students procrastinate from time to time, and that even half of them procrastinate consistently. Which is a great problem, because procrastination can lead to serious mental health consequences. In this regard, information systems have been proposed as a possible solution for procrastination. There has been increased attention from researchers that have tried to investigate the possibility of using IT-enabled interventions to combat procrastination in academia. Also, there has been developed a plethora of systems and application sources that use different game design elements in order to promote task engagement and task motivation with motivational design and thereby overcome procrastination in academic settings. However, the distinctive potential of gamification approaches in such applications for procrastination is still unexplored. It is essential to investigate whether gamification has a unique and distinctive value compared to other approaches, for example, AI-based approaches, in order to enable designers to build effective interventions against procrastination that can really have an effect that goes beyond the possibilities of traditional treatment methods. Therefore, our research question was, how effective are gamified digital procrastination interventions in comparison to non-gamified interventions? In order to understand what we are dealing with, we first need to shed light on the theoretical background of our investigation. Gamification is defined as using game design principles, mechanics and elements in non-game contexts in order to engage and motivate individuals to achieve certain goals or complete specific tasks. The main goal is to create a gameful experience, which means that learners do not play a real game, but they feel like they play a game in a non-gaming context. In education, this can mean to create a dynamic and immersive learning environment, which makes learning fun and interactive, for example, by using game design mechanics such as storytelling. On the other hand, we have procrastination. And besides what procrastination is, which I already explained, we know from research in psychology that there are different influencers on procrastination. On the one hand, we have external influences, such as task characteristics or distractions. On the other hand, we have internal influences, such as poor time management skills, fear of failure, lack of self-discipline, or low self-confidence. From theoretical research, we know that there are two critical determinants of procrastination: self-efficacy, which is the sense of confidence and own abilities, and self-control, which refers to resisting distractions. Bringing this together, we can assume that gamification could be a very effective design approach in information systems against procrastination, because narratives and feedback could provide orientation and create a sense of accomplishment in organizing and working on tasks. Also, visual elements such as animations, but also points or levels or any other progress-related gamification elements could illustrate achievements to learners and thereby strengthen self-efficacy. Related work has already explored that gamification can have a great potential. However, they did not isolate the effects of gamification. Our research method that we employed in order to explore our research question was a pre-test post-test experimental design. We started with a kickoff and pre-test survey in both groups, and then the participants in both groups were regularly using their respective application over a period of 3 weeks. Afterwards, we contacted the participants again and posed them a post-test survey. In both the pre-test and the post-test survey, we used 3 scales in order to gather the 2 critical determinants of procrastination, self-efficacy and self-control, and procrastination behavior itself the Tuckman procrastination scale. In addition, in the post-test, we asked participants about their usage patterns of the application and the subjective experiences they had during the experimental period. 73 participants, students from the different universities that were participating, were assessed for eligibility and expressed their interest. We allocated them to either the experimental or the control condition. In the experimental condition, we had 16 students which declined to participate. In the control condition, we had 14 of them, which means that they didn't show up at the kickoff event. In the experimental condition, we finally had 18 pre-test surveys, and 13 of them finished the post-test survey after the 3 weeks. In the control condition, we had 25 participants that received the pre-test survey and 16 of them that also finished the post-test survey. So all in all, our final set consisted of 13 students in the experimental group and 16 students in the control group. In terms of the descriptives, both groups were fairly similar, meaning that we had a quite similar age distribution, gender distribution, and study program distribution. For our materials, we decided to use 2 applications with similar functionality, with the only difference being that one of them was gamified and the other one was not gamified. You can see in that table that besides task reminders and the calendar that were only present in the control condition, both applications shared core functionalities necessary in order to plan, create, organize, and work on academic tasks, such as task creation and planning, subtasks, recurring tasks and habits, project organization, a focus timer, progress tracking, and statistics and history. Task Hero, the gamified application, was particularly unique because of its narrative storytelling design. The learner was given an avatar, a virtual representation of a hero which was fighting against task monsters while the learner was working on tasks. The hero could be equipped with several rewards that could be earned by completing tasks or by working with focus timer sessions. So all in all, the experience of working on tasks was entirely gamified and settled in a virtual narrative. Engros, our non-gamified application, shared similar functionalities. In the same manner as in Task Hero, learners could organize their tasks into projects, they could work on tasks with a focus timer, and they could also see a history of how they worked on the task in the past. The functionalities were very similar. However, there was no motivational design or a gamified narrative in order to immersively promote the learning process. For data analysis, we followed 4 steps. First, we started with preliminary analysis, such as scale reliability and the validity of our postulated model of self-efficacy and self-control being determinants of procrastination. Then we looked at between-group differences with a descriptive analysis and a t-test of independent samples. Afterwards, we looked at the within-group differences with the mixed ANOVA, complemented by 2 per t-test and an M-ANOVA to control for usage and study program. And finally, we triangulated our quantitative analysis with a qualitative content analysis of subjective experiences that the participants reported in the post-test survey. The results of our preliminary analysis show that scale reliability was acceptable for all of our scales in both pre-test and post-test. The analysis of our model shows that, as expected, we have a significant and negative effect that is quite high of self-control on procrastination. Also, we have significant and high effect of self-efficacy on self-control. However, the direct effect of self-efficacy on procrastination was quite low. We can thus say that the effect of self-efficacy on procrastination is fully mediated by self-control, which is in line with certain previous studies that have also found this indirect rather than the direct effect of self-efficacy on procrastination. All in all, the explanatory power of our model is quite high, with 78% of the variance of procrastination in the pretest and 85% of the variance of procrastination in the post-test being explained by the two determinants of self-efficacy and self-control. The results of the between-group analysis show that in both groups, we see an increase in self-efficacy and self-control between pre-test and post-test, and we see a decrease in procrastination in both groups. Also, usage was pretty similar between the groups. The inferential analysis show that there is no main effect of group for procrastination, self-efficacy, or self-control. The t-test showed that differences between groups are not significant, neither in pre-test nor in post-test. However, what we see is that the mean difference between the two groups increased for procrastination and for self-control in the post-test, with a medium effect. In this regard, our within-group analysis show that there is no significant interaction effect of group and time for procrastination, self-efficacy, or self-control, and no main effect of time for self-efficacy. However, there was a significant main effect of time for procrastination and self-control. The pairwise comparisons that we performed afterwards show that there is a significant pairwise difference for self-control between pre-test and post-test in the experimental group, but not in the control group. The complementary t-tests show that self-control significantly increased and procrastination significantly decreased in the experimental group, whereas in the control group, only procrastination significantly decreased. Our control for usage and study program shows that neither the frequency of use nor the study program seemed to significantly influence any of the variables. The complementary qualitative insights show that there were several aspects of the respective applications mentioned by the different groups. On the one hand, they mentioned several subjective positive aspects of the respective application. On the other hand, they also mentioned negative aspects of the respective application. And the third theme that occurred in the analysis was that there were different outcomes subjectively experienced by the different group participants. What we can see from this qualitative investigation is that participants in the experimental and control groups used the respective applications differently. The focus timer function was dominating in the control group to improve concentration during work on academic tasks. However, the task scheduling and progress monitoring functions, combined with the playful narrative, have promoted awareness for procrastination and motivation to start working on tasks in the experimental group in particular. So what can we learn from our findings? Our main insights are the following. First, regardless of the type of intervention, students' procrastination decreases significantly. It demonstrates the usefulness of the technology, but it questions the particular value of gamification, specifically since there are notable inter-individual differences of how gamification was perceived. Second, we see that gamification seems to have a particularly positive effect on self-control, and that gamification can be a powerful instrument to support learners in controlling their progress, which is particularly insightful because self-control fully mediates the influence of self-efficacy on procrastination. And third, students use the gamified and non-gamified applications differently. We have two main implications from our findings. First, regarding the value of smartphone-based assistance against procrastination, we can confirm that smartphone-based interventions seem to have an effect and that they have lower entry barriers and enable accessible support against procrastination. However, we see that it needs to be more than a simple to-do list. Focus timers, reminders, or recurring tasks and individual adaptation are essential to promote focused work on tasks. On the other hand, we can assume that gamification can be an enabler of conscious self-organization. Because gamification appears to be particularly effective in promoting feelings of self-control, we can assume that by reinterpreting task management from a tedious activity to a fun activity, which means to progress in a story or adventure, gamification could motivate learners to consciously engage with their goals and tasks, and thus reduce task aversion, which facilitates self-controlled decision-making. But also here, comparative and individualized designs are needed, particularly since gamification can also produce counterproductive effects. Thank you very much for your attention.